morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nam Pham. I'm very honored to welcome all of you. This is the City Hall of San Jose. And you know, San Jose is the largest Vietnamese population in the city overseas. So in terms of area, Orange County would be much larger. But in terms of city, San Jose would be the one. So we are very proud resident here. And today, we have the opportunity to invite all of you here to make some special announcement. But first of all, I'd like to give you a big surprise later. Now, please welcome City Council Tâm Nguyen on the behalf of the city sponsor for this room. So today we can have a meeting. City Council.
Thank you, welcome. Thank you, Steve. Good morning. Thank you so much. My deep, great honor and privilege to welcome not only Mr. Nam, who's been very active in the community, all the leaders of the community. I know Amy, all the great volunteers in the community, but because the whole purpose is for us to get together, and not only for us to celebrate America, but also to remember and value the great sacrifice that we all did for so long, so much, yet not been too recognized. Therefore, when I thank you, welcome.
Sorry.
No, thank you. So it is my great honor as a councilman, you know, I'm here today just because of, for, and about these folks. So it is so naturally, this is your home. We're welcome. Not only that we will support you, but we're absolutely thrilled and privileged and feel honored that you reached out to us, that you thought of it. It is so true. On the scale of the citywide, San Jose is the only one around outside of Vietnam to be the largest city. And more than that, the city of the 10 largest in America, yet we, again, because of all of us here, we're able to have 2 councilmen. And later on, I think for the next few days or so, we have opportunity with the city, the people to introduce you to a lot of great work that we have done so far. Long way to go, but so far so good. Therefore, with that feeling, this is the most appropriate and fitting to welcome you. And in fact, we talked about this for the last few days, and I think with the community thinking about maybe forming a delegate to follow you to attend a great event. All right. With that note, please help me give a round of applause. Welcome all our guests. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am myself a member of Hope Bac Dang, the Vietnamese Navy Association in Northern California. Today, we are very honored. This event is sponsored by Hope Bac Dang. So please welcome Mr. Le Thai Phuc on behalf of the community.
Ladies and gentlemen, first, welcome all you here. Together, we listen to the talk from the retired General Frank Tho. When we talk about the project, Long Cellular Statue in the Guam, when we talk about the Guam, we talk about the 140,000 Vietnamese people have been there for the first step for the refugees at that time, in the beginning of the May 1st. And talk about the Guam, we talk about the U.S. Navy, the Coast Guard, the Marines. They all help us because at the time, if we don't have Guam, we don't have those people, we don't know where we to go. Because at the time, no country accept us, even for Philippines, even for President Marcos at the time, they refused it. The reason why, because they're afraid they conflict with the new government. So we appreciate what American did for us, and for U.S. Navy and Coast Guard and Marine Corps and military and the government in the Guam at the time. So that's the reason why we are proud to be sponsor for talk today, and also we support for all of the projects to help us in Guam. And I also take this opportunity to thank all those to come here. Not because the project, also because we want to show the appreciation with the American people and on your government. Okay, thank you very much.
So within the member of the Vietnamese Navy Association, we have the oldest one, the Admiral Chen Chen. I just learned from the phone he will be here very soon. He is 90 years old. He's very weak now, but he understands and he knows you and he knows the project. He tried to be here with us. So, but anyway, the next one would be the high-ranking Vietnamese. We still, even without the uniform, but we still do show some respect to the high-ranking, and he's here, Colonel, Captain. Would you pardon us? We can speak some Vietnamese.
Sure.
And would you có thể nói được là xin mời.
I think we are very happy to receive all of you today, especially the Admiral, the commander of the project, and we very appreciate the project, and we hope to do something to contribute to the process of the alone seller in Southeast Asia. I hope we all of us we share something very small for your project, and I hope everything is successful in the future and now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we are Vietnamese American now. Even now, 40 years passed, 43 years passed, we still remember almost every detail what happened on the sea in the April 30, 1975. I'm not the one, go out on that day, but I'm very fortunate to have a chance to produce some documentary. And whenever I look at the footage, I have seen, many helicopters trying to get a landing, space in the U.S. at Midway. And because it's so many, so crowded, we don't have any place to play. So the seller in the U.S. as Midway tried to push away very valuable helicopter into the sea to try to save just even one person. Meanwhile, the Vietnamese Navy fleet, about 35 ships, get out to the sea, don't even know where to go. In there, we have about 30,000 people. Very compact, very crowded, no food, no water. I don't know where to go. And the U.S. Navy didn't forget us. In the story circle around the association, we still remember the U.S. Navy admiral who in charge for the operation make a phone call to Captain Paul Jacob of the USS Kurt 1089, order him to go back to rescue Vietnamese Navy. Even with the order, but if the captain didn't have a heart, didn't try the best he cannot rescue so many Vietnamese. I have seen this, I have heard the story published by the U.S. Navy. The Captain Paul Jacob tried to go around and looking for even a small boat, tried to pick them up in the open sea. So in my viewpoint, in my memory, I really appreciate that. So today, ladies and gentlemen, that's the reason why we organize this meeting, a very small group of people. Just try to share with you how and remind you how we came here. Our historical journey to the U.S. started on the April 30, 1975. And on the way, we go to war. How the governments, how the Navy, how the people in America welcome us. You all remember. And in my case, especially my old case, I'm a both people. I came to Malaysia in 1983 in one day. One Vietnamese woman trust something in the ground illegally in the rule of the camp. The supervisor ordered her kneel down by the trash he just threw away, and by her mouth, and put into the trash can. That action very make the Vietnamese refugee upset, and people all around get upset and try to react, beating the Malaysian supervisor. Immediately, the Malaysian people, Malaysian police, and even military circle around the camp. They order us, get back to your bed right away. If not, they can get into something very serious consequence could happen. After that, the police ordered all of us take out all clothes. For what? For searching. They got some weapon. But in my mind, I still remember that day. That's some kind of humiliation. They say, we are no one. We have no country. Nobody protect you. Even the US government sponsor you now, forget about it. They are the authority. They can do whatever they want. I still remember that. One guy escaped, and he ran to the, all the way through Malaysia to Singapore. And the United Nations rescue him, bring him back to Malaysia to the court. But with the promise, the US government won't forget this. They will interfere. They will help him to have a lawyer to defend him in the Malaysian court. And now I can share all with you. At some point and someday, we are no country. We are the people without any country. We are the people nothing to the world. And the US government in somewhere, the US Navy in somewhere, they still remember us. And that's the reason we are here today. So today we have a lot of story to tell you, but time is limited, so I ask all of you just about a few minutes to share with all of us the typical story. The first one I'd like to share with you today, we have a chance to get together because of two generous people already make a special contribution to the project we will share with you today. That's the Lone Sailor statue in Guam. I learned this project about last year when the Admiral Frank Cobb from the US Navy Memorial He came here to join the Vietnamese Navy Association reunion, and he shared with me the effort of that organization to build up and place a lone sailor statue in Guam for the first thing, to remember the soldier, the sailor, who sacrificed for their country. But the second goal is very important, to make something memorable for the Vietnamese refugee who came to the US through Guam. And to me, I believe this is a very honorable for the Vietnamese people in US. The US Navy don't ask you to make any contribution. The US government don't ask you to make any contribution. But to me, if I have a chance, if I have the privilege, I call that the privilege, to make some contribution and put my name in Guam. And I hope my friend and others, people here, put your name in there. I imagine a path, come to the statue with all Vietnamese name around. So someday, my children, your children, grandchildren will come there. And they immediately, excited, immediately get the pride. The Vietnamese, the ancestor, their father, that come to over. I just hope that. And now, today, we have a chance to share with you. And continuing, I'd like to introduce two people who the first know about this project, who the first make a good contribution to start it. So, Thanh Nga, please come here. Thanh Nga. And Mr. Roger Quang. Hey, come here, please. Come up here. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, Thanh Nga and Mrs. Roger Quang, they make a contribution of $50,000 to the project and seed money to make the lone sailor statue to be true, to carry the memorial mark of the Vietnamese people come over the US that way. Please welcome and give a big hand to them. Today, I'd like to share with you Roger. I have a chance to talk to him. He came to the US 30 years ago. And 5 years later, he became the owner of a company. And I can tell you, that company make really good money. Still present, still making money. And today, this month, he made the anniversary of 25 years of that company. And this is some kind of story I like to tell you. Without anniversary of 25 years of that company. And this is some kind of story I like to tell you. Without the help, without the acceptance of the American people, of the US government, and in particular, the US Navy, he won't be here. And he like to share with you, to show you how gratitude toward you. Please, have some words. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have any preparing. Sorry. Actually, good morning and real Admiral to ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roger Quang. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words on this room here for everyone here, and I appreciate everybody stay in this room here. And currently today, actually, I'm in US 30 years ago, and I was going to enter the United States of America. And looking back, I only have a dream with empty hand. And I own this country for not only allow me to breathe the air of freedom, but also give me the opportunity to build my company, QSQ, the company that my wife sent me, and I create, and QHV celebrate 25-year anniversary a few months ago, last year on September. And I was fortunate to have met Mrs. Angie and Connie and Captain Hong Nguyen in Washington, and Captain Mimi Pham and also Washington, who has introduced me to the Long Silver project as we're here today. And also, and actually we met also in the project for Vice Admiral John Tossi and Rear Admiral Frank Thor. Yeah. What made even more consider is when I learned that proposal to place this static from on the worm. Okay. And the place that Captain Hong Nguyen always referred to Ellis Island to Pacific. And the history of the Vietnamese refugee begin here. I want to express my appreciation and thank you the Governor of Guam and Mr. Ricardo Rodero, the people of Guam for open their arms and accept the people of Operation of a New Life. I also want to say thank you to people of Operation the New Life and later Dr. Hong Yo-do, and that had highlight attention to awareness of refugee. Without them, I may not have been granted as a refugee to be settled in this great mountain. For that, I would like to contribute and urge all of you attended today to help and set a footprint so that our children and generation to come can learn the history and what become of those who left in haste after April 30th, 1975. So I want to say thank you, all of you here, and appreciate and very happy.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to introduce to you our Admiral Trần Văn Trân. Now I can share with you whenever I speak English, my friend always correct me something. When I call my wine, they say wine is something to drink. You see, it's hard to say wine. 1975. What is it? 5? We forget about the the 5. Something. But it hurts to me to correct that. But anyway, that's make me to be a Vietnamese. If not, I'm American. Okay. One more story. I knew her. She's a Vietnamese doctor in Vietnam. She left Vietnam on the April in the event of April 30. And she had a chance to fly with the U.S. military. She impressed that. The plane is big. The plane is, something, in the sky. And that make her some kind of inspiration. And she joined the U.S. Air Force. And she be here with us. And she'd like to share a little bit story about her. Dr. Đỗ Thị Như Hồng. Xin mời cô. Yep. Yeah, chào chị.
This is a very big surprise to me. I thought that I just come to not to.
Today I have seen you in the very traditional, beautiful dress. That's the only reason I can invite you here. But I think you have good story too, right? Please share with everyone. Thank you.
First of all, I'm very shy. I don't speak in public. 40 years ago, I came here with the empty hand and a bag full of broken twig. What to say? They call America paradise. It's not because of the land, not because of the beauty, but because of American people. The people who are very generous, very passionate, and they gave us a second chance for freedom. When we first arrived to Guam, tears pouring on our cheek every day, and we had many nights without sleep, thinking about the Vietnam that we left behind, and all the family who could not get out. So over there, we see many young soldiers who put up the tent during the very sunny, warm day and take care of the food, the drink, medical service, everything. And even we came there, like the refugee of the war, our mind was not there. But we still cannot not to acknowledge the hard working of the soldiers, the people in the military, the Navy, who work so hard for us. So, like, where do I go now? So, you know, talking about that, we don't forget 58,000 American soldiers died in Vietnam, and 260,000 Vietnamese military people in the Vietnamese government who died for us. For us to have the second chance of freedom, to start our new life here, I joined the Air Force because I feel like this country gave me a second chance of freedom, and to give me the belief in the humanity. So I joined the Air Force to pay back and to serve the country, to serve the people who give us a second chance, and for our faith in the humanity. So God bless America, and God bless the people who fight for their freedom, and also who fight for the freedom of the others. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. Yeah.
So there are many stories I'd like to share with you, but the time is limited. So we have another chance at lunch today at Thai restaurant. But now, I'd like to introduce to you the most important person to me, not to you. He asked me, why I should be here to do the job. I share with you. He the next generation, he born here. He always thinking he's American. He had the passion to join the U.S. Navy. He had the passion to serve the country. He liked to be a role model for his generation to know we are men, we are the citizen, we should join the military, you should join to the armed force to serve this country. But before that, I ask him, today I give you a big chance. You will never ever imagine someday you can be here to introduce another important person. Right? And he seems to understand that. So please help me. Allow me to introduce my son, Vincent Phan. He will allow you to introduce another important person.
Well, my English is better than my dad's, so no problems for my part. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. And like my dad said, I do have the honor of introducing retired Rear Admiral Frank Thorpe IV and the United States Navy Memorial Foundation. Admiral Thorpe, he attended the United States Naval Academy and graduated in 1981, where he earned his bachelor's degree and commissioned as a young naval officer, where he served in the United States Navy for over 28 years. Following his retirement in 2009, he took on a lot of key leadership roles in the civilian world, but perhaps the most important role is the one he has right now with the Navy Memorial, as he's the president and CEO of this foundation. The United States Navy Memorial. Now, the Navy Memorial works aimlessly to honor, recognize, and celebrate the brave American men and women who have served in our sea services. And perhaps one of their biggest projects is actually the Lone Sailor. Now, the Lone Sailor is a statue that was originally put up in 1987 in the Navy Memorial Plaza in Washington, D.C. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend it. It's very beautiful. And really the statue, it's a bronze statue of a sailor as he looks into the distance. And he doesn't know when he's coming home. You know, after being away, serving our country at sea for so long, he just looks into the distance. But you know, he's like a silent, watchful guardian for everyone in this country. And the next statue to be put up will actually be in Guam. And Guam is not just a special place in the Navy, but as we all talked about before me, it's a special place for the Vietnamese population as well. After 1975, during the fall of Saigon, the Navy and Marine Corps, they helped with the evacuation of over 100,000 South Vietnamese refugees, many of whom were brought to Guam. So it's important that everyone in this room, and my future generation recognizes the sacrifices of these brave American men and women at seas, and that we need to recognize the special bond that the Navy has with the South Vietnamese population. So it is my honor to introduce Rear Admiral Frank Thorpe to come up and say a few words about this project.
Thank you, Vincent. And what he didn't say is Vincent has received the primary nomination to attend the Naval Academy from his Congresswoman. And that is a singular honor. It's an honor to get a nomination, but to get the primary nomination says everything. And we are hoping very shortly to welcome Vincent to Annapolis, to the Naval Academy, and to bring him into the United States Navy. The future of America is right here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. CNO, Admiral, thank you for joining us. There are so many people in this room that I feel the need to recognize. Nam, thank you very much for putting this all together. I very much appreciate it. Angie and Roger for getting this started. The former Republic of Vietnam Navy, who welcomed me. As you all know, our navies have a tight bond. We've always had a very tight bond. Decades before 1975, and then after 1975, we've stayed close. And to have the opportunity to share your reunion to share your reunion with you was a great honor. And then remarkably, to be able to participate in the Thank You America event. And the city councilman who's coming back in, I had an opportunity to meet him, and thank you for hosting this today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to attend a Thank You America event, it's an emotional thing. I mean, people in this country aren't doing that enough, and you all have embraced that. I left that event with this exceptionally warm pride of our country, that there would be a group of people who would have an event called Thank You America. I wake up every morning with that thought in mind, and I don't think what I do about it is adequate. And what you do through your actions and words is singularly impressive. So I've got some prepared remarks, but I'm going to try to stay away from them and just give you some thoughts. Our mission at the Navy Memorial, as several people have said, is to honor, recognize, and celebrate. 3 very powerful words. To honor, recognize, and celebrate the men and women of the sea services, and to inform the public about their service. And this opportunity to put this statue in Guam really goes to that mission. About 30 years ago, the first statue was dedicated in Washington, D.C., right there on Pennsylvania Avenue, halfway between the Capitol and the White House, on Pennsylvania Avenue. Many people call that the Main Street of America. And millions of people every year walk by that statue and take pictures of it, and leave flowers at it, and wreaths at it, and notes at it. And it's an opportunity for America to thank the Navy, to recognize the role that the sea services, the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard, the Merchant Marines, have played through the history of our country. The Lone Sailor represents all of the men and women in the Navy. It's actually, when it was created, it's a combination of a bunch of different people. And it represents a sailor who's about 25 years old, a mid-grade second-class petty officer, who's served overseas, who's fought in wars, who's been involved in humanitarian operations. He's visited big cities and small villages. He's been a friend. He's been an ambassador. He's been a tourist. He's helped people when they needed it. He's been helped by the local people. But most importantly, he carries with him or her a little bit of our way of life. He shares that. So when I hear the stories that are so powerful out here, they're stories from you, but they're also stories about the people who did it, who today carry with them the pride of knowing they were a part of saving someone's life, making someone's life better in the future. So over the years, the Navy Memorial has placed Lone Sailor statues around the country. We just dedicated the 15th one in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. It's located there at Valor Park, and it's standing watch over the hallowed grounds of the Arizona Memorial. It's a very touching, fitting scene. Everything in this park is somewhat geometrical, all faces the same way, except the Lone Sailor statue looks this way. And the people who installed the statue used a laser at night to line up the statue with the flagpole flying over the USS Arizona. And that, when people see them and stand there already, we just dedicated it on October 13th. And the pictures of people recognizing the importance of that connection and what that statue means is very important. So we're here this morning as Nam has mentioned, several have mentioned, we've done a lot of work to get here. But we're here today to take a public stand and to announce that we are going to dedicate this Lone Sailor statue in Guam on April 30th, 2018, to mark the anniversary of Operation New. Now, you all know, talked about where the idea came from, and the idea to connect that very special relationship with Vietnamese Americans, with the U.S. territory of Guam, and the United States Navy. And you all know the history better than I, and I won't go into it other than to tell you as a Navy person who feels a kindred spirit with those who have sailed on the high seas, I appreciate that incredible relationship of what we've done at sea together. And I think this statue will definitely represent that. So working closely with the government of Guam, specifically the Lieutenant Governor, Ray Tenorio, he has dedicated a plot of land on the governor's compound, up on a hill, overlooking the sea, overlooking the beaches that were talked about earlier, where the refugee camps were built by sailors and Marines. And it's a very appropriate location. It's publicly available, publicly accessible, so people visiting will be able to see it. It shows the respect that it deserves. As Nam said, it's perfectly positioned to have a walkway that has the names of Vietnamese people and generations before. I teased, where is Vincent? I teased him this morning that he will take his grandchildren to this statue. He winced, but he will take his grandchildren because the stories that you all have, they need to continue to be told. We all need to tell those stories. And Vincent will tell his grandchildren, but every year it gets farther and farther away from a real memory. And when Vincent tells his children about that, it'll mean something. But when he walks that walkway, and his grandchildren look down at the Vietnamese names on that walkway, and look at the lone sailor looking out at sea, aimed at Vietnam, they will ask, and then, Dad, tell me more. And they will say, now I get it. And so this, and I don't know where this plaza is going to be and is going to end up, but we envision bricks and benches with people who are involved in this project's name all over it. Not just as recognition for their support of the program. Mind you, I think that's important. But not just that, more importantly, because that's what this statue is all about. And so, let me see what else I need to say in here. I guess in conclusion, our goal, we need to raise $300,000 to do this. Due to the incredible generosity of several people in this room, we are well on our way. We're well enough on our way that I feel very confident to say that we think we can raise the money before then to do it. And we need to do that. We need to raise the money before that. And so we've met Roger and Angie earlier. Nam and Vincent have been very helpful. And we're going to meet somebody here in a bit who's also been very helpful. But I ask you for your support. If you believe this is the right thing to do, in as small or large a way as you can do it, please be a part of this. Because I think in the end, at the end of the day, what do we leave behind? We leave behind our stories. We leave behind our memories. We leave behind our lessons. And several people in this room said that the Navy never asked for anything. And I think that's exactly right. And representing the Navy Memorial, I think what we ask for today is let's not let this relationship be forgotten. Let's not let it go not appreciated. And so I feel very proud to be part of it. I thought it was a great idea when I heard about it, and now being more involved in your community, it just is the right thing to do. So thank you, thank you for your involvement in this and for making it a worthwhile event to do. So thank you very much.
Well, Admiral Frank Top of the U.S. Navy have shared with you the idea of the Lone Statue. Right now, I'd like to introduce to you one more important person. I don't even know his name. How important it is, you will find out. But now I'd like to ask one person important to me. He is about 85 years old. He is about working with me for the last 30 years in many community projects. He has the passion that, you know, they say transfer over to me and make me another passionate person to do something that we can leave our story behind. We have been here for 43 years. We have a lot of story. We have a lot of, you know, illustration, a lot of things for our generation to know. But it seems we came here, we have to struggle to rebuild our life. We don't have much time, but right now it is about time. And this person I'd like to introduce to you, he have done a lot. And I give him, I'd like to invite him up here so he can share with you a little bit about why we do this. Bác Vũ Văn Lộc.
Nam say very important person. I think about you talking about your wife. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Do not ask me how much we contribute, but I decide after you and you double my contribution. That's the only thing I can do. And very short story. We get out of my country by Army boat. After the president say, no more fighting, I get out. And my Army boat follow you. The Vietnamese Navy go too fast. Army boat cannot follow. We circle around, and the Navy from United States take care of me. And we come to Wake and Guam. So that is the reason why we have to support your project. And especially, I very have a good time to go to PX at Guam. Just do not add any idea too. But no more day, so we do not buy a lot of things like that. I think I love your project. But maybe you statue could be the Liberty Trust of the East. I'm afraid you have to welcome more immigrants from Vietnam. That is the something. Maybe the president, our president, don't like your idea. Maybe. So, whatever come up, the Vietnamese community love to contribute to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, now, this is an important person. My son, you know, pulled me back there. Why you say you don't know his name? Well, that's the reason why you pay attention, right? Of course I know his name. And I know one more good thing. You know, I met him in downstairs. He bring a big box. I say, what's that? He say, well, that's a really big box because inside there a really big check. Please welcome a very important person to Admiral Frank Top, because that's big supporter for the loan seller statute, not here, not in Guam, but everywhere. He come from the U.S. money reserve. I make a joke with him, how much you make every year? He say about $1 billion. Because he were able to print it for free. But I asked if you can have about $1 billion, how much you can contribute to the loan seller project? Oh, really? You will know that. Please welcome Mr. Philip Yeo from the U.S.
If I could say something
Yeah, sure.
before you do.
Yes.
I want to, please, Philip, join me here. I'd like to add to what Nam said a little bit about Philip. He mentioned he printed the money. He actually was the director of the U.S. Mint. I mean, the director of the United States Mint. We are honored to be joined by you today, and the reason I wanted to say this is I have a little confession. I'm not very good at raising money, and I think I even missed in my remarks that how you could do this, because I don't think that way. Because I get carried away in the emotion of it. Go into our website. We've got some brochures for you. But the real way, and that's very important. I mentioned Roger and Angie and the work of this room. I want to point out a couple things about the U.S. Money Reserve. Their commitment to recognize, to honor, to celebrate our veterans is actually very, very strong words when they talk about it. I went down and visited them in Austin, Texas, and they live and breathe this appreciation that we see here today. And that statue in Hawaii that I mentioned, it is there because of a lot of people that were involved. But the biggest benefactor was the U.S. Money Reserve. And their actions behind their words and their message to people who serve in the United States in order to have this great country that we have is loud and clear and backed up by their actions. And the reason I went down to Austin is they invited me down there to say, you were telling us about this statue in Guam. We like that, and we'd like to become involved in that. This was their initiative. This was their outreach. And thank you. I present to you Philip Yeo.
Thank you, Frank. Well, it was a labor of love what we did at U.S. Money Reserve to build the lone sailor statue in Pearl Harbor. There are not many of us in the company. There may be a few who have a living memory of Pearl Harbor. But there are many more of us who have a living memory of the fall of Saigon. And it is still a very vivid memory for me. I think that I have a few remarks, and unlike you, I will refer to them. These are remarks that I wrote up drawing on my own personal memory and my own sense of where we are as a country today and the example the Vietnamese Americans really represent to our country. I remember vividly 43 years ago as the government of South Vietnam collapsed. Our friends among the Vietnamese people, many of whom had risked their lives and the lives of their family members, grew desperate to flee the country. Sadly, a large majority of American people opposed welcoming them to our shores. It's hard to remember now, but it's true. But a president of principle and courage listened to the better angels of our nature and opened America's door to you, to them. In the years that followed, 1.3 million Vietnamese escaped and joined their fellow American immigrants.
you and me. Today, these immigrants are models of the American dream. You are doctors, engineers, lawyers, entrepreneurs. Your incomes exceed that of the average American, despite having arrived here with nothing in your hands. No wonder more than 80% of Vietnamese Americans believe most people can succeed with hard work. Less than 60% of the rest of us share that optimism. The example of Vietnamese immigrants has been set before by wave upon wave of immigrants, first from Britain, then elsewhere in Western Europe, then Southern and Eastern Europe, Asia, Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East. In other words, from all over the world. The lone sailor standing in Guam will be a reminder to future immigrants and to us that generation after generation has invigorated our nation's faith in American exceptionalism. With that note, Frank, I'd like to make a presentation to you.
Yeah.
We, U.S. Money Reserve, are happy to present
Upside
you.
down.
It looks bigger upside down.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. So on the behalf of the audience here, I really appreciate your thought about the Vietnamese history in the U.S. Thank you so much for your time.
Can we get a picture?
Yeah.
Come here, come. We gotta get Vincent in it, the future.
Yes.
Mr. Philip, you said this is a down payment. Means still have more payment to come.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. And this, the overwhelming support, I think what this also should mean to this community is the power of this recognition that we're doing. It is, the core is right here, but the expanse of it, I think, is all around our nation. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And can I say one more
Sure,
thing?
sure, yeah.
Colonel, I didn't see you sitting behind me, and so when I recognize that there's way too many people in this room that I could personally recognize, but I feel disrespectful that I didn't recognize you.
I think that today you come to very high point of the San Jose.
I feel that way. And I wanted to thank you for my previous visit when you toured gave me a tour around the museum.
Okay.
And with that,
If
thank
gentlemen, you not come here today, Tom never let me come this place.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, now we don't have many hours left, so you can stay here as long as you can because Tom already left. So the door is closed outside. This is important. I like to give you the brochure. I ask you to read that because in the brochure printed by the U.S. Navy Memorial Foundation, in there they just let all Vietnamese Americans around the country know the U.S. Navy Memorial Foundation dedicate the Lone Sailor statue in Guam for us. Keep remember, they have a lot of lone sailors around the country. But this one in Guam, that's for us. And I hope you read the brochure, you understand the purpose, you understand the goal, and you find, figure out, and you realize, and you acknowledge that we have been very privileged, to live and to blossom from this country. So please read the brochure. And I'd like to introduce to you the lady. In the future, you can make a call to ask some detailed question, where my $1,000 be placed in the statue. She the one to answer you. Miss Alexa. Say a few words so people can recognize your voice, so the next time they call, they know who you are.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here. We have the brochures going around. We have some more outside. And we also have a small model of the statue that you can see. My number is in the brochure. My email address is there. Happy to answer any questions anytime. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Alexa.
If I have a friend who wants to contribute, they will contact with you?
Yes, and you can also go online to our website and do it through there.
And now this is the last story I like to share with you. I'm proud and just find out that he's the U.S. Navy officer, the Vietnamese American, long time ago. He's have been here with us, and I like to ask him to share with you how he become the U.S. Navy officer. Xin mời. I don't even go exactly your name.
Wow.
Please.
Thank you. Deeply honored and it's kind of taken aback by this because it's very unexpected. But I'm very proud to be here. You know, the lone soldier, or the lone sailor memorial means a lot to me because it not only it signifies the service that me and my fellow sailors, the service we've given to the country, but it also it's a great meaning because of our history and how we came to the U.S. Just hearing some of the stories that you all have shared really gave me a perspective on how we came here because I was very young at the time. I was only 5 or 6 years old. But after college, I joined the Navy. I was stationed on board the USS Carl Vinson, so it was a very great time. But I'm looking forward to do what I can to support the nation and look forward. Hopefully, I have the opportunity to actually be in Guam for the event. But thank you.
Thank you.
I think we should draw attention to the jacket that his father is
Yeah,
wearing.
that
is what this is all about, right there.
You realize that, đây, okay. Dạ, đây là anh Huy, là con của thiếu tá Hải quân thiếu tá Nguyễn An Cường. Dạ. Thưa quý vị, còn two things before we leave here. The first thing is we were going to the Thai restaurant. I don't know who you invited. This is the person who paid for that. So you have the right to invite anybody. Please come in. You invite all. Okay. Thưa quý vị, cái building của chúng ta ở đây thì cũng vui nhưng mà không có nước. Rồi thứ hai nó đứng cũng lâu quá mỏi, thành ra chúng tôi sẽ mời quý vị. Xin quý vị đừng có ngại vì có người trả tiền rồi. Một cái điều thứ hai, okay, I'm sorry, I'm talking in Vietnamese, I'm forgetting all.
It's okay, I just hope the joke wasn't about me.
I already asked his permission whether at any time, my consciously, you know, I don't know why I speak Vietnamese. They call it a mother tongue. And in one story I read before, I say, when you die, maybe you don't know anything, but the last word will be Vietnamese. And the last word will be Ma ơi, mẹ ơi, mom. I remember. You know that. They call that the language, the heart language. I never forget. So I ask, you know, he understands. So sometimes I speak with you Vietnamese, I don't even know. So Thanh Nga would like to invite all of you. I just make sure that you don't worry about the payment. And don't worry about the contribution. I talked with the Admiral Frank Top, and I share with you. That's a privilege. If you see that a privilege, you do. If not, no problem. Come to enjoy, come to share story, come to hear the story, and maybe that will make you inspired. That's what I hope for. And the last thing I want to do is the brochure. again, if you decide today you make a contribution, remember the check should, put down the U.S. Navy Memorial Foundation, the Long Southern Project in one. And the one thing before we go, I think Admiral, this morning, with you discussed about you will make a special announcement for two things, for the Vietnamese Navy Association and the big thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're going to do, because really it goes back to the core and the basis of our foundation here, is as we construct this plaza, we definitely want to demonstrate the partnership, the relationship. And so as we do the design, we would like to very much acknowledge the role and the relationship of the Navy of the former Republic of Vietnam. And so whether that be a bench or a plaque, we'll do that in the design. But I think that's a very important part of the legacy here at LEAV. And so with your permission, we'd like to work with you to do that.
Thank you, Admiral. Thank you. And again, I like to speak to in Vietnamese. Dạ thưa bác, hôm nay cháu rất là hân hạnh. Bác năm nay 98 tuổi, đi đứng rất là khó khăn. Nhưng mà bác nghe cái câu chuyện này, bác dứt khoát là sẽ đến đây. Điều đó có lẽ không phải là mình cháu cảm động không, mà tất cả mọi người đây hết sức là cảm động. Đối với người Việt Nam chúng mình, người cao niên như bác mà đã bỏ một cái công sức như vậy, nó làm cho mọi người hết sức cảm động. I just share this, my appreciation to the Admiral Chen. He's 98 years old. And even Admiral Frantok told me today, after the lunchtime, he would try to visit the Admiral Chen at home to show a special respect. And he knows he's trying to come here with us, with you today. Thank you. So, on behalf of all, so this is the end of the announcement, and all you know, the April 38 in Guam will happen soon with our help. So keep that day. Anyone who want to fly over there, contact Anh Phúc. He will represent for the Vietnamese Navy Association, and he will help you to fly over there. If not, go by ship.
Leave tomorrow.
Yeah, leave tomorrow. It takes about a month or so. Anyway, cô Thanh Nga, chị Thanh Nga đã mời tất cả quý vị. Xin quý vị qua nhà hàng ta ở Memphis, 90 South Evo Street, sir. Can you go with us to join us in the yes. Thank you so much. So thank you very, and I'd like to have a big picture.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Yes, my